से पहुंचा हूं सुबह ही और ये एक हफ्ते दो से ट्रैवलिंग
और दाढ़ी लाजमी
ऑर्गेनाइज्ड हो गए आप मतलब क्या चला
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Frontline Club. Thank you for coming to this evening's first Wednesday. Before I hand over to Paddy O'Connell, who always chairs these discussions, if I can ask you to switch your phones to silent, and when it comes to questions, if you can wait for the microphone, because we are broadcasting live. Over to Paddy.
Thank you, Millie. Hello, friends and rivals. Please have a look at the time. We always begin on time the first Wednesday, and we'll end on time. But if you could help us by broadly trying to stick to the subjects. They may not be the correct subjects, but these are they. First, a briefing. Who on earth's running Pakistan now? What is happening at the election? It's a parliamentary election, but could you just tell us, panel, who we should look out for? The key candidates will come next, second section. Third section, this awful violence that's going on, the backdrop and all the killings and the people who hate elections there. And finally, the significance and possible outcomes. So that's enough from me, and we'll run it as a public meeting. I'll be taking your questions all the way through and your challenges, if you prefer, to the panel. But could I ask you all to kindly introduce yourself with a sentence, and a sentence about this election that if we left knowing only one thing, we must know this, starting with you next to me, Irfan Hussain.
Thank you, Paddy. I'm a columnist for Dawn in Pakistan, and I've been writing for a very long time. My take on this election, Paddy, is that I think it's probably the most important election in my generation, because so much is in flux in the region at the moment. The Americans are leaving next year. So the next government is going to have to deal with a whole complex range of issues and challenges.
Thank you. High Commissioner, welcome.
Well, my name is Wajid Shamsul Hasan. I'm High Commissioner for Pakistan. I'm not a professional diplomat. I've been a journalist all my life. And as far as prospects of Pakistan elections are concerned, we hope they are held peacefully, although the chances are dim. And we hope that we make them through, because this will be a landmark election, transition from democracy to democracy, first ever in the last 65 years.
Hello, my name is Amber Khairi, and I'm a producer and a broadcaster with the BBC Urdu service here in London. And I think it's a very important election, because it's the first election where it's really very, very clear who are the forces who are on the religious right and who are the sort of secular progressive forces. So very interesting in that respect.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Peer Zubair Shah. I'm a former New York Times reporter, currently a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. And I've been reporting on the tribal areas all these 4 or 5 years. And these elections, as the others said, they are significant because it's the first democratic transition. At the same time, it's very much polarized on different lines, and they are uncertain, they are violent. That's why I think they're very important.
Thank you very much. So let's kick off with who's running the place now and how they're all getting along. The answer is not very well, but let's hear it from people who know better. Could I ask Irfan and Umber, could you just brief us? Many of us paid £12.50 to know more than before we paid. So, number one, who are the main secular parties standing in this election? Question for you. Question for you, Umber. Who are the main religious parties standing in this parliamentary election, not a presidential election?
That's right. Well, the three secular parties that formed the ruling coalition until a few weeks ago when the caretaker government took over, the People's Party with the biggest number of seats. The second was the MQM, which is an ethnic-based party in the south of Pakistan around Karachi, and the ANP, which is the National Awami, the Awami National Party, which is based in the northwest frontier province. And these are the three major secular liberal parties in Pakistan.
And who are the personalities who are at the top of those? What names have we normally hear?
Asif Zardari is the president of Pakistan, and he is co-chair of the People's Party.
Benazir Bhutto's widower.
Widower, that's right.
No, he ceased to be co-chair.
Well, no, recently, yes. Then the MQM is led by Altaf Hussain, who is based in London, and he's been here for about 20 years, which is a very odd situation, but he's still running his party back in Pakistan. And the ANP is run by Afsandiyar Wali Khan, who has been in politics his whole life in the frontier.
Thank you very much. And to you, Umber, who are the main religious parties standing in this election?
Well, those are the three main secular parties, but the other parties are basically the Pakistan Muslim League, the faction that's led by Nawaz Sharif, who's been prime minister twice and is a major contender. There's this impression that he's going to sweep to power and be the next prime minister and so on. And then there is the other factions of the Muslim League are there. And then there is Imran Khan's party. Up till now, the maximum number of seats they had in parliament was 1.
And he's the
But
former
now
cricketer,
he's the former
who's
cricketer.
also known as Taliban Khan.
That's right.
Yes, because he's failed to actually condemn the Taliban, and he keeps going on about how some people could say they're freedom fighters. And
Do you consider him a religious party, his party?
pro-Taliban, yeah, so Taliban leaning, yes.
And what's the name of his party?
But it's called PTI, which is
PTI.
Tehreek-e-Insaf, which translates as, the movement for justice.
Okay. Anyone else in the religious world?
Well, these are actually not religious parties. These
Oh,
are
we haven't got
parties
there
which
yet.
are right-leaning and, religious right-leaning parties.
I mean, the problem is the religion is
but
being
you-
used
you
by
are
every
India.
party, even by the military. I mean, it's all about Islam now.
Jamaat-e-Islami?
But the religious parties, the interesting thing is that the Jamaat-e-Islami, which boycotted the last elections.
Right, now don't give us too much information.
No,
I'm
but
just-
we haven't come to
12
the
pounds
religious
worth.
parties
£12
yet.
worth, yes. But you told us at the beginning there are religious parties. Can you name them before we
Oh
move
yeah,
on?
the Jamaat-e-Islami, the Jamiat-e-Ulema-e-Pakistan. Who else is the religious parties?
JUI, JUP,
JUP,
There
even
are
JUI,
small,
SSP, a
very small
sectarian
groups.
group.
Ahle Sunnat wa Jamaat, which is a reincarnation of the Sipai Sahaba, which is Sunni,
Okay, so there we have the parties laid out. Up to 10, broadly the compass looks at secular, broadly the compass looks at religious. Yes?
Well,
so
there's a middle.
there's a middle.
There's a
Now,
middle.
to you in the room, does anyone have any questions about this? This is about the makeup of the parties right now.
Yeah, I mean, the panel have failed to mention some of the regional parties, especially in Balochistan, things like BNP. So where would you see them? So I know that you're talking about the religious and secular, but do you think that it's worth mentioning those small regional parties which could have an impact in the next elections?
Pierre, would you take the answer to that?
You're talking about the parties in Balochistan.
Generally, they're regional parties.
Regional
Yeah,
parties.
exactly, regional parties.
Should
yeah.
we be interested in them?
Of course, you have to be interested in, especially like beside Balochistan, you have to be interested in what's going on in the tribal areas. No one is paying attention to that. And your whole policy, what's going on in Pakistan is related to the foreign policy and what's going on in the tribal area. Who is running there, which parties are running there, and who is supporting them. I mean, how much under the target. So in the tribal areas, for the first time, they extended the Political Parties Act of the Pakistani Constitution. So now you can run on the party platform. So there is every party is there, and beside the secular parties who are there, but they are under threat and they can't campaign freely. Recently, one candidate was attacked, and he survived, and he went back and he said, "Now I'm an independent candidate. I'm not with ANP, with the Awami National Party." The Taliban said, "Okay, now we are not your enemy." And now he's fine, he will be a member, but without his party support.
Okay, just if you pause there. So the answer is yes. For the moment, yes. He says yes. We're looking at regional parties, and security will come in just a moment. Fine. So can I just move to the constitutional question, High Commissioner? From the outside, it seems like you just don't get along. Your political masters can't agree with the judges, and then every now and again the army takes over. Is that how it seems to you?
No, I don't agree with you. As a matter of fact, we were the people who restored the judiciary. With the Chief Justice of Pakistan was restored by administrative order of the Prime Minister of Pakistan, then Prime Minister of Pakistan, Yusuf Raza Gilani. The entire judiciary that was dismissed by General Musharraf was restored by Prime Minister of Pakistan through an administrative act.
So you think they get on just fine?
Well, we have got different point of views. We have got disagreement on various judgments they have passed. But that doesn't mean that we are opposed to judiciary. We want independent judiciary, and judiciary is acting independently.
Umber, if the judiciary and the military don't like the political masters of the High Commissioner, they do intervene, don't they? They either kick them out or ban them from standing, which is what...
In the past, they've had a rather checkered history, is that the judiciary has sort of, approved everything the military has done by retrospectively saying, yes, it was all right, and giving it legal cover. So that has been the history up till now. But there's talk of strengthening the judiciary.
But what I'm asking is, will this democratic election be respected by the military and the judiciary? Pierre, what do you think?
Of course, I mean...
Well, you can't say of course, because they keep going in.
What I mean is that they will be respected because they will have a very huge role in who will be the next in government. That's what the judiciary and the military, they will be a determining force. So, I mean, what they will be acceptable.
There has always been tension between the army and the political rulers in Pakistan. And of late, the judiciary has become a very active player. So now there are more different power centers. The media is another one that has emerged. So there is a lot of tension between these power centers, and I expect it to continue.
Right. And to you in the audience, do you have any questions about this break-up between the military, the politicians, and the judiciary? And if not, good. Let's go on. No, we won't take your question now, sorry. We'll go on now to the elections are being held on the 11th of May. Who are the key candidates for Prime Minister? It's a parliamentary system. You've outlined at least 10 parties. Irfan, could you tell us some names to be briefed on who may emerge and what how you see the arithmetic working? Is it a clear win? Is it a coalition? And give us some names and we'll go up the panel.
Well, the polls are all showing that Nawaz Sharif's Muslim League is ahead and will get the biggest number of seats. So it's very likely that he will lead a coalition, but he's not expected to get an outright majority. The next biggest party, according to the polls, is the People's Party, which may or may not be part of the coalition. The PTI, Imran Khan's party, is expected to do much better than he's ever done before, and pollsters are giving him anywhere from between 15 to 30 seats. So
out of how many?
Out of 270 up for election. So we are looking at a coalition with Nawaz Sharif's Muslim League being the dominant player.
High Commissioner, is this dangerous for you to talk about Well, not at all. As a political analyst, I would say that this time the Parliament will be much more hung than it was before, and you will have more stakeholders in the government, and you will have JUI of Maulana Fazlur Rahman in it, and probably Imran Khan would be sitting in the opposition, perhaps forming the strongest opposition in the country.
Are you hearing better at the back? Yes. Can we all speak up a bit? Is this the first time Imran Khan's got into Parliament?
He was only once elected member of the Parliament, and that too in General Musharraf's time. And never before he had contested elections. And he boycotted the last elections.
Does he suck up interest in the West because he played cricket? Or is he? Why do we get excited about him, do you think, in the United Kingdom?
Well, it's your personal opinion. You can get excited about anybody.
Very true. That's worth £12, I agree. Umber, would you like to add from what you've heard, agree or disagree? Add names, potential prime ministers, key people?
No, well, it looks like there'll have to be a coalition. I mean, yes, the West and generally people in Pakistan are very excited about Imran Khan, but there's this feeling that he's going to mobilize the youth vote. And his slogan is change, and, we need change, and we need to move forward and things, and that's appealed to a lot of people.
It's very bland, isn't it? It sounds like it's one of ours. We need to move forward. Is he at a crossroads as well? Is the country at a crossroads and it needs to move forward?
Well, yes, out with the old, and, we need change and we need to forward. But he does have a lot of support from young people, I think, and they think he can affect things because, he was a successful cricket captain, and then he did sort of achieve the impossible by building this cancer hospital from, fundraising and things like this. So people think he can.
Any other names? And is Imran Khan the one who's most anti-drone of all the secular? Well, you put him in the middle of the secular religious. Is he making drones his issue? And any other names you'd add?
Yeah, Imran Khan, he is making drones an issue in the broader context of he's making anti-Americanism an issue and Islam an issue. So, these are all then related to each other. And on drones, I think he's not alone. Even a lot of Pakistanis agree, except the people who are actually in those areas. they like the drones, but no one is, as I said, they have no political voice. So the dominant voice is the anti-drone narrative, which people like Imran Khan, every other, but Imran Khan is at the forefront. It's helping him broadly, but I mean most of his role will be to, as the ambassador said, to facilitate the creation of this hung parliament, which it shouldn't be a government like this one, which we had recently.
He's Nick Clegg.
I'm very poor at British characters.
Yeah, and
Nick
to
Clegg
you,
is a politician.
Nick Clegg is a politician.
Okay.
He didn't play cricket, I believe.
To you, Irfan, what about Nawaz Sharif? What can you brief us about his policies, his inclinations? Do you think he's likely to be the Prime Minister?
I think so, and he is a very conservative man from a conservative background. He is an industrialist, and so a lot of the trading community is quite happy with him, and a lot of urban voters are for him. So he has a pretty large following in his province, which is Punjab, which is the biggest province in Pakistan, with over 50% of the population and more than half the number of seats in parliament. So he has a very strong chance of becoming Prime Minister, and he is also anti-drone, quite anti-West, and he is, as I said, very religiously conservative.
And High Commissioner, our own Prime Minister says that Pakistani politicians like to look both ways on the West and the Taliban, and it was a controversial remark. Did you disagree with it when you heard it? And are these candidates, which way are they looking, these candidates?
Well, as far as the government is concerned, it doesn't have anything to do with Taliban. They are considered as enemy number one of the state because their objective is to take over Pakistan. And government's objective is to protect Pakistan from falling into their hands. As far as other politicians are concerned, Irfan has mentioned, Harry has mentioned, and even Shah Saab has mentioned about various parties. The fact is that some of the political parties are not vocally condemning Taliban.
They're not totally condemning.
Yeah, they are sort of running with the democratic hare and hunting with the Taliban hounds. So you can understand that. But rest of the three parties are vocally and determinedly fighting against them. They are facing the main brunt of their terrorism against them, and they are the people who want Pakistan to be a liberal and progressive and secular country.
And do catch my eye if you want to join in. There's a gentleman here in the front, and then to you. So we'll bring the microphone all the way down here, and then we'll bring it to you over there. Do say your name if you like, but you don't have to.
Sir, Adil Shazeb, I'm an international broadcaster.
Can you hold the microphone?
Yeah, Adil Shazeb, I'm an international broadcaster and writer. My question to the panelists is
You have to speak up, sorry, it doesn't really work.
There's a common perception in Pakistan and three of the main progressive parties which have been sidelined by the Taliban threats and attacks. The perception is that international establishment, along with Pakistani establishment, they want a pro-Taliban government to serve their interest in the region, considering 2014 withdrawal of NATO forces from Afghanistan. And even the three political parties, when they held a joint press conference yesterday in Karachi, including Pakistan People's Party, Awami National Party and MQM, all three of the progressive parties, they have the opinion that basically this is what's happening. International establishment, along with Pakistani establishment, they want a pro-Taliban government, which will ultimately be Nawaz Sharif and Imran Khan or a couple of other right-wing religious parties.
Okay, so who are the international establishment? The West?
I mean, obviously the West. Talking from Pakistani
Washington wants a pro-Taliban Pakistani government.
Well, when you talk about international establishment from Pakistani perspective, they mean Washington.
So your question to the panel is, does Washington want a pro-Taliban government? Is that your question to them?
I would like them to comment.
Well, I mean, who wants to say no first to the... Here?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting question, but you have to know why are people thinking so? I mean, why is this perception being created? And again, it's all related to your foreign policy. It's all related to, as you earlier mentioned, about this seeing both ways, like being with the Taliban. You are with some Taliban, you are fighting some. While the Taliban are not fighting each other, they are on the same page. They know. And as far as civilian government is concerned, they are not in charge of your foreign policy, your security policy. So what has been going on was just condemning in name. The ANP, People's Party, everyone would say names that I am against the Taliban. But they were not in charge, so they couldn't create an effective policy to deal with this whole mindset and this whole narrative which has been being produced. So what Pakistan wants is important rather than what the West wants or what the West wants.
Irfan, have you heard this view before, that there is a...
Yes, but I don't buy this at all. I don't think it's in anybody's interest. Even the Pakistani establishment, now the Pakistan army now sees the Taliban as their primary enemy. So this has been a change in thinking in the army. General Kayani, the chief of the army, has repeatedly said that he sees the Taliban as Pakistan's biggest threat. And I certainly don't think that anybody in his right mind sitting in the Pentagon or in the White House would want a pro-Taliban government in Pakistan. It's the last thing they'd want.
A pro-Pakistani Taliban government in Pakistan.
No, I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, the Taliban, they are
There is no
different.
such thing as pro-Pakistan Taliban. Taliban are Taliban.
Exactly.
They're anti-Pakistan.
Yeah, exactly.
They want
but
to
they are,
capture Pakistan's territory
but they are with
for
Pakistan.
their own state.
But they are with the Afghan Taliban too.
Well,
like
they could be with Afghan Taliban.
they are with. So you can't.
But they're
separate
not
them.
striking
So if
in
you don't
Afghanistan,
separate-
they're striking in Pakistan.
My point is, if you don't separate your foreign policy with that of your domestic, so
No,
nothing
at the
is going to change.
moment, our foreign policy, military policy, and the civilian policy is the same. They're on the same page, and that's why what happened in Sawat and Malakan, you have seen the military and the civilian forces, even the parliament voted for it, and the government and the military was sent there,
Yeah,
and they
but you
sorted
have
it out.
but you have to know what's going on in Swat now. Why Malala has been shot?
Obviously, why
because there is
why
no
Tom,
civilian,
Dick, and Harry be
there is
shot?
no civilian. Like the military goes in, what happens next? You have no civilian setup to retake the government, the administration, everything.
Now,
So I mean,
some of these issues we want a briefing on later, but the disagreement between you here is, it seems to me, our questioner, sorry if I was rude to you, is, you know, basically, is it confused? Is the picture, is some kind of administration going to emerge that manages to do the double, manages to tell the people of Pakistan they're anti-West and manages to tell the West they're anti-Taliban? Is that the kind of briefing we should be getting from the panel, Irfan, do you think?
I think we need to clearly see that there is now a wide consensus among this outgoing government and the army that the Taliban are Pakistan's existential enemy today. And there's, I don't think, any confusion over that. However, they have not been able to translate this consensus into policy, into actual tactics to face these people.
Well, you mentioned about the West and Pakistan. The fact is, we're not bothered about the West. We're bothered about Pakistan. It's a battle in Pakistan between forces who want to revert Pakistan to Mr. Jinnah's vision of a liberal egalitarian Pakistan, and forces who want to impose their own religious version of Pakistan, which is being opposed by secular parties in Pakistan.
And how acute is that tug of war in your lifetime? You're mentioning the founder of Pakistan, and now you're mentioning forces to pull that founding vision apart. How strong is that fight today?
Well, if elections are held free and fairly and without this violence, those forces that stand for Mr. Jinnah's Pakistan will win hands down. Because in all the previous elections, if you look at the record, you'll find these religious political parties outnumbered by those political parties that were secular, progressive, and liberal.
I think the question is,
please.
question is not outrageous because in Pakistan the military does have its own foreign policy agenda, largely linked to Afghanistan and India. And, you know, that's going to play out in this election, I think.
Okay, now we're still broadly talking about key candidates and key issues, but we will come on to talk about the violence in particular, which is why I interrupted Pierre when he was telling us about a killing in Swat. So if your question, sir, could kindly be broadly about prime ministerial candidates, policies, alliances, is that all right?
It's about violence rather than...
Well, can you hold it? I'll come to you first when we do violence. So just on this question...
There's somebody here.
Yes, a question at the front. Do you want to just shout, Millie, sorry about this, I think this... It'll go quicker if we just do it like this. But after you.
I guess it's directed to all the panel, but perhaps is it Amber?
Amber,
To
yeah.
Amber in particular. You sounded a bit dismissive of Imran Khan, even when talking about his contribution in terms of building the largest cancer hospital, for which he didn't get a lot of support. But I'm not with any particular candidate at the moment. But the fact that he is the only candidate of the main parties who is so far untainted by any corruption charges, none that have been proved well-founded anyway. Does that mean anything to you at all?
No, I mentioned the cancer hospital because that actually added to his credibility. Everyone said at the time that this is an impossible project. You cannot achieve it by doing this kind of fundraising, and he did. So he kind of, out of that, he got a positive sort of an image of someone who's able to do what he sets his mind to. In terms of politics, I think he's not very experienced as a politician. And he comes across as very rightist, which I think is, he's sort of allied himself with the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is, a large religious party, which is regressive, which has had associations with Al-Qaeda, which are, open. So...
Is he looking both ways?
I guess my question...
You give her the microphone back.
Sorry. I think I was just wanting to focus on, perhaps I didn't emphasize it, it was more about the fact that the previous parties that we've had have had serious charges of corruption against them, and they've come into power more than once. That includes the party that's considered to be the most likely candidate to succeed, Nawaz Sharif's party. Does the fact that Imran Khan is now leading an increasingly popular movement, especially amongst the younger crowd, and yes, there are criticisms of him leaning towards the right, but equally he also has been well received for his take on human rights abuses in terms of drone attacks and so on. The fact that in terms of corruption, where Pakistan's had a notoriously serious problem, what do you say about that?
We've got the point.
Do you have a concern about...
We've got the point. We'll ask everybody to answer. He's not seen as tainted. He's a bit anti-Western. What do you think, Per, in answer to our friend?
Yeah, exactly. He's the perfect, he's the symbol of what every Pakistani, you can say this Pakistani confusion, that you are getting aid from the West, but you are against West. You are getting the benefits of the drone attacks. Every single Taliban commander, Pakistani Taliban commander, has been killed by the drones, not by the military operations. And those who are running, they are also running from drones. The thing is that Imran Khan, he's exploiting these issues. There is resentment, and this resentment has been produced by the media. It might not be actual, but what people are becoming are more anti-Americanism is increasing, and through these drone, the drone is being used as a pretext.
Okay.
So Imran Khan is using all
We'll just take a comment from everybody.
Sure. About the corruption issue, just let me say that since Imran Khan has never been in power, he's never done anything, so you can't really accuse him of power, for corruption, simple as that.
Cricket's pretty corrupt.
Well, nobody accused him of ball tampering. Yes, he was accused of ball tampering. Yes, he was. Yes.
Was he?
In fact, in his own book, he admitted to ball tampering.
Did he? God, I'll give you 12 quid before we leave.
Now this time he has a bat.
But are we doing it again, High Commissioner? And I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No.
But why are we talking about Imran Khan? Is it because we know him here? Are you a voter in Pakistan? Did you say?
I think I'm told that as someone living here, I can vote. I'm not sure.
You can run a party, but you can't vote if you live in London. Run your own party. But the question is this. Would you name another candidate, or are we right to spend everybody's time talking about this man with an international image who's taken on drones, who's called him Taliban Khan? Are we right to give him more time, or do you want to talk about another person?
Well, I would not subscribe to this idea, because everybody is talking about drones. Everybody thinks drones are wrong to be attacking Pakistan.
Well, Piers saying people are having their cake and eating it.
Well, this is a perception.
Well, he said it.
Why America has become... Why people of Pakistan have become so anti-American? Why do I feel that the drone attacks have been weakening democracy in Pakistan? When the people in northern areas ask, what is our parliament doing, passing a resolution condemning drone attacks, yet doing nothing against them? So that's a factor. And everybody is using it for its political gains.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
I mean, as I said, anti-Americanism is increasing, but the problem is this whole secret nature of Pakistan-US relationship. The civilian government is telling, and this is what WikiLeaks tell us, that you go ahead with drones, we would protest in assembly, and we would. It's the Prime Minister. Zardari says, kill the real guys, we are okay. Kayani says, give us more drone coverage in the South Waziristan area. So this is what WikiLeaks tell us. So the problem is not the drones, but this whole secret nature of relationship in those areas and also between the US-Pakistan. The civilians, I don't know how much they were on board.
High Commissioner, he's saying that your boss is sort of speaking with a forked tongue.
not my boss. He's saying.
Not the president.
He's a politician.
He's talking of leaks. As a journalist, he would be believing in leaks. I don't believe in leaks. Number one. Number two.
Pakistan, they are whiskey leaks, not
WikiLeaks, obviously. And everybody is condemning drone attacks. And it was not this government, democratic government, just finished his term. It was General Musharraf who has recently come out openly that it was he who gave permission for drone attacks.
And
so it's very clear that somebody in government of Pakistan, then in power, gave Americans the permission to attack with his drone planes. So there is something to it.
We're very pleased you're here, High Commissioner. It's a rare opportunity for people with an interest to question you directly, and it is a public meeting. Would anyone like to just talk to the High Commissioner about what he's just said? It is a public meeting, that's what we're doing. So, I mean, if no one is, you've already had one. It's better, go on then. But it better be about what he's just said, because we are doing it by subjects.
Right, okay, so it's sort of linked to what you have said, but I'm just sort of like concerned about one thing, and recently you talked about, these drones and whatever, and the role of the military, right? Now, the whole sort of like the issue the last 2 weeks about Musharraf and his trial, do you think that is going to have an impact, or is that like just a, like a side thing that the military is throwing to divert attention?
Yeah, great question. Now, this is the fact that today Musharraf's been banned for life from standing as a candidate. He took power in a coup. He was very friendly after 9/11 to the Americans. The whole panel, would you like to answer this gentleman's question? In this election, is the banning of Musharraf a key issue in analysing the runes in Pakistan? To you first.
Well, if I know a bit of British history.
British history?
British history. I think somebody like Musharraf, perhaps a greater man than Musharraf, Oliver Cromwell did the same thing. And what was done to him?
We cut his head off.
Yes.
Then we burned him, I think.
You did not burn him. You dug out his bones and hung him in time here, near Marble Arch.
So are you saying that should happen to...
Well, if you want to have democracy in the country, you have to set an example.
Sorry, but my question is really...
For violating a constitution, which is an act of treason.
Right, but sir, my question really is very particular to the fact that he's an ex-military man.
No.
So will the military allow him to
Again, I would like to answer this question because the matter is before the court and it will be sub judice.
Yeah, I mean, your question, the thing is, he's a distraction, of course. He has no role, and he has no future as such. But the thing is, by the military to remain silent on this issue, it's by default, it's helping them in their image that Kayani is not interfering in the political process, he's not interfering in the...
Is Kayani the head of the army?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he's not interfering in the working of the courts where Musharraf is being tried. So that's helping them in that way. But Musharraf, I don't think he will be convicted as such. And he has a lot of enemies in the judiciary, in the lawyers, maybe in the military. The civilians are against him. But we will see what the court decides. And the problem now is there is no current government. It all will depend on the next government.
Well, I think that Musharraf, he must have been quite mad to go back into that hellhole because he's really put himself in an untenable position. He really thought that he'd be received with garlands and so on, but now he's put his head into the lion's mouth and he can't step out. I think my personal view is that he will be bailed out probably by the Saudis who'll broker a deal and he'll return to exile. I don't think he is going to actually be tried and convicted because then in his defense he can call in so many people who were associated with him for all these 9 years. And it's going to be a big can of worms. I don't think the trial will go for. But I wish he had been allowed to run for the election so he would be disabused of the idea that he is popular in the country.
Yes, I think he thought he had so many people following him on Facebook that he would be, elected into government. But I agree it would be a, total Pandora's box would be opened. But I think what's significant is that he is an sort of ex-president, ex-army chief who took power in a coup, and he's actually been brought before the courts and charged, and this has been discussed.
And as an interested international group, is it correct? Is it like a barometer? The army are silent about Musharraf being slapped around a bit, metaphorically. That's important because it means that the army's in their box at the moment, are they? Is that the way you're telling us to read the silence on Musharraf? It means they haven't got that coup itch at the moment.
Honestly, I don't know what's going on within the military, what they think and make of him. But what I mean to say is that it's helping them by being silent and not interfere. It's helping their image. And by default, if their image is improved, the civilian image goes down.
Do you fear another military muscular moment in Pakistan?
No. General Kiani yesterday made a statement, rather made a public speech supporting democracy wholeheartedly, and he said the elections will be ensured that they are held on May 11th, so that everybody gets a chance to vote in the elections, free and fair elections. They will restore law and order, they will maintain law and order, they will ensure the elections are held peacefully. So Kiani's word is a commitment, and it's a commitment of the armed forces of Pakistan. So we are not worried about it, but we know that Taliban are on the rampage, and they cannot be stopped. So far we have not been successful in stopping them.
To you, sir.
I think Mao said, power flows from the barrel of a gun, and I think that still remains true of the Pakistan army. Do we seriously believe that what General Kiani says in public is also what happens behind the scenes?
What do you think?
I don't think so.
So
no.
do you fear a muscular moment of...
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're foolish enough to do that again. They failed the previous time. Musharraf is a failure for that very reason. What I think is that Musharraf will be bailed out. Irfan is absolutely right, whether it's the Saudis, the Americans, perhaps even your government here. But eventually, Musharraf will be let off. The army always protects its own. We should have no illusions about that. Thank you.
And to you, coming over here, shortly we'll come to you with your question about violence. We're just doing people, policies, and we'll work this to death and then go on.
I don't want to drone on about this, but if anyone else was confused about what the High Commissioner was saying, I just checked, and the WikiLeaks about who sanctioned the drones, or the allegation of who sanctioned the drones, was Gilani. It was Yusuf Raza Gilani. So he was Prime Minister at the time when these WikiLeaks came out. It wasn't Musharraf, so it was somebody closer to home.
Only Musharraf gave a statement recently.
The agreement was made by Musharraf, but the civilians continued with it because the security policy.
Because when a state comes to a treaty or agreement, it doesn't violate. The next government doesn't violate that.
But the line is, we'll protest it in the National Assembly and ignore it, and it came from a meeting with Mr. Gilani.
Okay, well let's just...
The WikiLeaks pertain to a certain period after Musharraf. So the WikiLeaks that are available to us, they don't cover Musharraf's period. So although he has admitted to CNN that he initially authorized the drone attacks, they were continued by this previous government.
Okay, and at the back, I missed that. So to you...
Hello? Yes. Yeah, just before we move off the drone subject, I mean, can the panel comment that anti-Americanism was rampant much before the drone attacks? That there has been a long history, certainly since even before the Iraq War, of growing anti-Americanism in Pakistan relating to aid, international aid, and all kinds of other issues.
Yeah, I mean, anti-Americanism, as Mr. Irfan said, that the military has now changed what they call their green book, and it's the Taliban are the main threat, but I think they need to change the textbooks in order to really make what... So anti-Americanism has been increasing as the syllabus, the school syllabus, the madrasas, it was made more Islamized, and so if you end up hating the Hindus or the Indians, then it's very easy to hate and resent any other nation, especially those who are friends of India. So anti-Americanism is, I think, the whole problem is with the education system. Unless you remove
That's a big topic, so he's agreeing with you. And can I ask you finally on this section, any policies of any of the parties that are important before we move on? We're speaking a lot about the rest of the world, but is there a big issue in Pakistan that people get behind that's not about the rest of the world? Is there a policy any of these people have got? Or are they just forever blaming the rest of us? Have they got a Pakistani policy for growth, for making people, doing anything? Have they got a policy?
No,
any of these?
because you are more concerned about Pakistan than Pakistanis themselves. So they are making you more concerned because you are giving them more money. They depend on your aid. They depend on your both security and civilian aid. So the interference is too much. The expectations are high, and the delivery is low. So that's why people are feeling. Mr.
Yeah, the biggest single issue, I think, currently is the recurring power shortages that this government or the last government just could not get a handle on. And so industry is on its knees, absolutely. And there are areas in Pakistan that go without electricity for 18 hours a day. And this is the one big issue, I think, that the electorate is going to punish this previous government for very heavily.
And is there anyone saying, hello, my name is, vote for me and I'll put the lights on? I mean, is there a party that's making lights in its issue?
Yeah, Imran Khan is,
He's
Nawaz
doing it as
Sharif,
well.
Nawaz Sharif, everybody.
So, yeah,
He's going to get in, Imran.
Exactly. He said the power issue is the main issue, but People's Party is putting an ad on local TVs saying Shahbaz Sharif, the chief minister, PMLN, who might end up in the government, he's saying we will end the load shedding in 3 years. Then he says in 2 years. And some other states he says 6 months. But there is no clear strategy to deal with it. There's all political rhetoric in that we will end it, but there is no, action, plan of action.
High Commissioner, what do you think about the power situation and the potential to motivate voters?
Well, people of Pakistan know who provided power to the people of Pakistan. Over 100,000 villages were provided electricity during Benazir Bhutto's second tenure of government. And I was High Commissioner here in 1994 when she signed MOUs worth £1 billion for power projects in Pakistan. And 3,000 megawatt of power was added while she was in power. And both Nawaz Sharif and Musharraf, one after the other, have claimed that when we were in power, we had power in surplus. Musharraf claimed as well that when I took over from Nawaz Sharif, power was in surplus and we were looking for foreign markets. So where did the power disappear in 2008? Why were there 12 hours of load shedding when Musharraf left? It is all because both the leaders did not add 1 megawatt of power where Benazir Bhutto left.
So yes is the answer. Power is political in Pakistan.
Political, but again, you can't have power just by the swing of a magic wand. You have to invest. Imran Khan says Shahbaz Sharif said 3 years, Imran Khan said 3 months. Let's see who does that. Because again, put up a power generation plant requires 3 years, not just overnight. And we are in the process of doing it.
Ambassador is right, because Shahbaz Sharif himself, he do nothing in his 5 years term. So he's now claiming that he will do when he's elected.
It's a provincial subject, by the way.
It's a provincial subject?
Yeah, provincial subject.
What do you mean by that?
Well, traditionally, the federal government that generates power and supplies it. But there's nothing to stop a provincial government from also doing it. But so far, it's the federal government from Islamabad that these plans are made and implemented.
And that is the election we're holding on May the 11th. It's the federal.
They're both national and
provincial.
provincial.
That is why Imran Khan and other opponents of Nawaz Sharif are blaming him. That why did you spend so many billions on metro buses? Why didn't you generate power?
Okay, let's move along. Oh, there's a hand up here. Let me just check the time. Yes, we'll take a couple of questions and then we'll go to you on the backdrop. So, to you.
Yeah, two points I wanted to raise. Initially, what do the panel make of the sudden appearance and then disappearance of Dr. Qadri from Canada into the Pakistani political scene? And also a second, slightly related question to the power issue. In terms of the management of the tax collection issue in Pakistan, what kind of steps have been taken during this government, or does anyone in the political landscape suggesting tax revenue collection needs to be picked up?
And do people fiddle the taxes in Pakistan? Is that
That one of the major reasons for mismanagement has been the fact that there's a low tax base, tax collection base in Pakistan.
okay? So would you like to comment on what this mysterious Canadian, Irfan, and the mysterious tax receipts?
Yes, Tahir Qadri is the preacher who turned politician, and then about 7 years ago he went off to Canada, and he's been running a chain of religious schools. And suddenly he parachuted into Islamabad and led a huge number of people there, and for about 4 days they were camped in Islamabad. He was in a glass enclosed container while his followers, poor people, were in freezing cold and rain, and for 4 days he just sat there and harangued the public, saying he would topple the government and so forth and cleanse the system. And it was quite a bizarre thing, and people speculated that he was a stalking horse for the army. And but then he, just as mysteriously, is pushed off again, and
he's back again. By the way, he's back again.
Yes, but on a very low profile this time. And he's we really don't know what to make of him. He was a huge distraction at the time, and he's just pushed off. And as to the taxes, Pakistan is notorious for a very low tax collection system. And agricultural income there, for instance, is tax-free. So there are huge farms, agricultural estates that are just not taxed. So the billions of taxes go on. And since they are in the assemblies, these people, they get away with it.
And the question is, do you know if any political party is trying to make tax collection an issue? Do you know?
No, because they're all got tax evaders in their ranks, so they're not.
No, love. Sorry.
It.
So, and to you at the back with the microphone, and then to you next.
Okay, I have no political affiliations or anything, but I was curious, observing the election season here. I was wondering why Imran Khan's opponents haven't leveraged the Sita White case at all over the past few months. I mean, you would think that if you want to throw dirt on him, they should be using that a whole lot more, but I'm curious why the panel thinks it hasn't even come up.
Okay, and in answering our friend, will one of you brief us on what this case is about? Would you like to start, Umber? What is this case and why hasn't it been leveraged?
Oh, okay. This was came up many years ago that apparently this lady called
95.
Yeah, Sita White, who Imran Khan knew and had had a fling with or something. He had a daughter with her. And I think it was Nawaz Sharif's party who actually brought it into the public domain and, said nasty things about him and said, well, he has this illegitimate child.
He's decadent.
Yeah, he's decadent, whatever. And he denied it. Now, the thing is, the young lady, I mean, she's the spitting image of Imran. And the Sita White also came out with, she talked to journalists, she talked to press about it. And
okay, so why hasn't it been leveraged is the question.
I don't know. I'm glad it hasn't because I don't think it's relevant and it's in good taste not to. So
we've still got 10 more days left.
But it is a
they might be jealous of him.
They might be jealous of him.
But it is a contradiction.
But it is a contradiction.
No, it's a contradiction because in this election they made a big thing thanks to Tahir Qadri and General Zia's stipulations that all candidates have to be Sadiq and Amin,
good
Muslim character. So it is interesting. It hasn't come up in that context.
Great question again, and to you, sir.
Thank you. And I'd agree that it shouldn't be leveraged. I was just curious why.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you. We got some answers, and to you.
I wanted to ask the panel what they think has changed since the last election. Meaning, how will these elections be different? Voter turnout was very low last time. Could it be a lot higher this time? There has been a lot of wealth creation in the provinces and agricultural areas. How can that impact things? So what
major difference is the emergence of Imran Khan's party. Because earlier, for the last 20 years, this has been a two-party contest, by and large, between the People's Party and Nawaz Sharif's Muslim League. Now you have a third party, which has become a major player. So that is one big difference. And the other question you asked was?
Are people more affluent? Are they poorer? Is there something in the voter profile?
I mean, there is certainly a larger middle class, and the number of voters are very young. About over 50% of Pakistan's population is between 1 and 24. So it's a very young population profile. And there are many voters, millions of them, who will be voting for the first time. And Imran Khan hopes to get a big chunk of that particular vote. So the dynamics have certainly changed since the last election.
High Commissioner?
Well, as far as dynamics are concerned, I can agree with Irfan, but the electoral dynamics have their own way of or a course to go to. And Imran Khan, I shouldn't be commenting on his politics. In politics, what matters is which polities has the most electable candidates, and who is an electable candidate. If Irfan is a candidate and I'm his voter, if Irfan has been visiting my house and death, weddings, and looking after my work, taking me to the police station to bail me out, I'll vote for him. And Imran Khan does not have that sort of candidates, or many other parties don't have any candidates of this sort. It is local politics that matters most in Pakistan. Local connections, local politics, and how many people you can mobilize, what sort of law and order situation you have, temperament of your voters. For example, I shouldn't sound biased. If there is a law and order situation, there is firing going on at a polling election area, I'm sure and I'm confident that a PPP worker or MQM worker will dare and go and brave those bullets and vote for his party. But Imran Khan's party, they're all youngsters. At the first sound of the bullet, they will prefer to go and sit in their cozy homes.
Right, now, do you disagree? Is there a geographical split? Is it basically won by Punjab, this election, the biggest party? Is there a geographical split, or shall we move on? Do you disagree fundamentally?
No, he is exactly
okay, well, we won't go on. Now, microphone to you. So have you still got it? So just while we're getting the microphone to you, we've tried to look at who the main political parties are. We've tried to ask who are the candidates for Prime Minister. We've tried to ask what are policies, and we've asked about Musharraf. Now I'd like to come to the backdrop, the situation in the country, corruption, violence and extremism. If you'd like to keep your comments on this section for now, starting with you.
My comment is about drones. Gentleman on the right, you said that in the areas where the drones are used, the population are pro them, are for them, but they have no voice. Who are they? Why do they have no voice?
Keep the microphone.
Yeah, the thing is that these are the tribal areas, we call them, federally administered, and during the British time, the Pakistanis continued to keep them as the tribal areas. The thing is that local people, they see the drone attacks in comparison to the military operations. So what is going on currently, more than 600,000 people, they are displaced since 2009 from South Waziristan. The recent exodus came a few weeks ago from the Khyber tribal area, which borders Afghanistan. So the Khyber tribal area, there has been no drone attacks, but they want the drone attacks because the drone attack is intelligence-based, it's precise, it's accurate, the civilian casualties are very minimum, and the alternative are the displacement. So as I said, then they are forced to live in the camps where they are not taken care of properly and where they are exploited, and then they end up for many years.
I wonder if our questioner is getting a moral question. Would you like to say what's behind your question, and we'll get the rest of the panel to correspond? You sound upset.
That's just my nervous manner. It's not a moral question. I'm just curious. That's all.
Exactly. It's a moral question. It's an ethical question. It's a legal question. It's a new warfare. There are a lot of things to be debated and to come up with. But the legal status, we know that Musharraf had an agreement, so they are legal. It's not against the sovereignty of Pakistan as is proclaimed. There was an understanding. They are effective. That's why Pakistanis are asking for this drone technology to be transferred to them. But there are legal loopholes internationally, and there are questions that remain to be answered.
If I can just comment on this for a second. Now, while I was researching my book, I spoke to the chief secretary of the frontier province, which is the area close to where we are talking about now, where the drone attacks are. And I asked him about what he thought of the drone attack. He said the further away people are from these drone attacks, the more they are against them. But the people who actually live there, they are for them because these terrorists, they've made their lives hell. They've just taken over whole villages at gunpoint, and they hold them as human shields. So the local tribes people who are being subjected to this occupation, they are for these attacks.
Okay, and to you?
I know these guys are saying that people in the area are very much for the drone attacks, but reading stuff in the British and American media is very much the opposite, where they seem to say they're having psychological effects of hearing the buzzing, the fact that extremists have come in the area, the people have kind of ignored them, and said, go away, and then suddenly there's been a drone attack, and then people have become very angry and anti-American. So it's kind of contradicting what we hear, even in Western media.
Let's hear from Umber and the High Commissioner. Is this a big election issue? Is broadly what we're talking about. Do people say one thing and vote another way? They quite like them. Is that true, that remark? Gentleman's querying it. Umber, what do you think?
Well, strangely enough, the drones issue hasn't come up that much in the election campaign. But the interesting thing about the drone issue is that it's kind of the narrative has been hijacked by the religious right, who've made it into a human rights issue.
Imran Khan said the other day that when I came to power, the first order I will give you to shoot down the drones. I mean, it's an issue, but it's broader issue of anti-Americanism, the use of Islam. It's all related, and drone is part of this bigger narrative.
High Commissioner, do you want to come in?
Well, I'd like to answer the whole anti-American issue. And it didn't start yesterday. It started in 1954.
As our friend at the back said.
1954, when we joined into a mutual defense agreement with the United States. And the United States had a clause in it that in case Pakistan is attacked by any country supported by the Soviet Union, we'll come to Pakistan's aid. In 1965, we were attacked by India, and Americans didn't come to our aid. Rather, our entire army hardware was American dependent. Our embargo was imposed on them. 71, same thing happened. Indians attacked that with the assistance of the Soviet Union after they signed in August 1970 a friendship treaty. They got Indian Soviet planes to ship their troops to the East Pakistan's border, and then they attacked Pakistan. Even at that time, Americans didn't come to support us, but they put an arms embargo against us. Subsequently, ever since I've been in politics, not politics, in journalism since 1962, when Ayub first imposed his martial law. Ever since then, Americans have been preferring to one-man rule rather than democracy, while all their leaders have been blaring that we want to make world safe for democracy, we want to make world free from all these scourges. These are all, nothing but high talk, nothing which matters. And that is why people in Pakistan, common in Pakistan, in the street in Pakistan, he doesn't like America.
Irfan, we're looking at the backdrop now, violence, corruption, extremism. Is anti-Americanism this time going to change the result? Is it our High Commissioner is telling us it's always been there. Is it a big issue today? Should we move along?
It is an issue that's been raised by Nawaz Sharif and Imran Khan in the elections, in the context of the drone attacks, certainly. But I don't think the average voter is going to vote one way or another because of his perception of America.
Okay, fine. So let's, one question on this from you. Thank you.
I'm actually asking about the relationship with China and whether that's an influence in any way.
Umber?
I think in the past government, the outgoing government, did build a lot of regional kind of partnerships, the pipeline with Iran, better relations with, talks with Afghanistan, and China as an old ally. So I think for the US, that is going to be a factor in who they would prefer to be in government in Pakistan after this election. So yes, I think that might be.
Okay, now, Irfan, could you just brief us on the violence that's been happening? I've read, published accounts here that in some parts of Pakistan, if you're standing for a secular party, you'll be shot. Is that true? What's the scope of it? Can you brief us on that, the whole panel, and to you in the room?
Last December, the Taliban issued a clear threat. They said that we will target the People's Party, the MQM, and the ANP in the election. And in an interview with the newspaper I write for, they were asked, the Taliban spokesman was asked, why these three parties. They said, we are against elections, we are against democracy. So they said, why don't you attack the other parties? Well, he said, well, that's our prerogative. We'll decide who we attack. But currently, we are going to attack. And they've been true to their word. The last few weeks have been extremely bloody in Pakistan. Dozens of people have been killed. Several candidates have been attacked. One has been killed. So it is, I think, as Amber said earlier, it's a very uneven playing field here. We have two major parties who are free to campaign openly. They have huge rallies, whereas three other parties who are secular are not allowed to campaign at all. So there have been very small rallies, street corner meetings, and so forth. So there has been a definite handicap here
Well, I agree with Irfan. Yes, there is a handicap, and as is evident that only three parties are being targeted, and after being forewarned that we'll kill you, and we'll see that nobody votes for you. So the game is the agenda is very clear. The secular parties come in their way of capturing Pakistan. When People's Party took over in 2008, I'm sure you must have read in British press, the Taliban were 60 miles away from Islamabad. It was the government, democratic government, which countered them and which got Sawat and Malakan vacated from them.
And what
So we are their direct enemies.
But what will the effect of these threats be and the killings that have already happened? I read of one candidate, they missed him, but they got his son, his brother, and his uncle. I mean, what will...
There so many people are being killed every day in Karachi, in Peshawar, in Quetta. They're also, singling out the minorities, Shias, Christians, and all that, because they know that they are the people who are going to whole support secular parties. So they are being singled out. But again, mind you, why don't they attack the other two parties? One of the parties, I don't want to name it, just before 1999, they had moved a resolution for imposition of Sharia law in Pakistan. They wanted to make Mullah Umar's Pakistan. And that party is having a free hand in Pakistan at the moment.
At the beginning, we heard from the panel, the most critical election in his lifetime. You said it was important. What about this level of violence? Have we seen it before during an election campaign in Pakistan? I know we've had coups, but have we seen candidates being popped off?
No, never. I mean, it's just become a more violent place now. But I mean, there are attacks every single day on these parties. Today,
where in the country are they mostly happening?
Everywhere except Punjab. So, I mean, today there was one in Sindh, one in Balochistan, one in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And, every day there are attacks, every single day. And, one of the results of this is that the electronic media, which is very influential in Pakistan, they tend to stay away from these small meetings or whatever, whereas they go to one of, say, Nawaz Sharif's party or Imran Khan's party, if they're having a rally, they broadcast them live. So their speeches are coming into people's living rooms, whereas these other parties are not getting that coverage at all.
So this bomb, kill and shoot policy of the Taliban is effective?
It is. It's creating fear. I mean, journalists are, have stopped going to cover their events now because they say, oh, something might happen.
Three or four questions. Could I take yours because you haven't asked one yet? And if anyone else would like, who hasn't asked a question perhaps. So we're on the backdrop here to the elections.
Yes, while we're talking about local politics and extremism and stuff, I'd like to move you a bit to Karachi and ask if you can maybe emphasize the future or predict what's going to happen with MQM and ANP. I mean, they're already having a sort of a brutal love affair right now. And with the Taliban's presence increasing in Karachi, we've seen ANP's presence declining a little bit or weakening a little bit. So can you speak a little bit more about MQM and ANP while we're at this?
And also do define our terms. We're not all. One of those is a regional party and one of those is a national party.
Yes.
But do brief us as you answer the question about Karachi. It's the second city, isn't it?
The biggest.
The biggest city. Yeah. So what's...
Bigger than London.
Well, Karachi is home to Pakistan's biggest Pakhtun population, as you know.
6 million.
So a lot of Taliban have infiltrated in. And the MQM, which has been ruling Karachi virtually for the last 25, 30 years now, because it has a very solid vote bank, and it just will not allow people to break away from it. And now, last few years, it saw the ANP as a growing threat because the numbers were growing. So they thought that stranglehold on Karachi would be broken. So there had been tension and rivalry between the two. However, now that the Taliban have started targeting both ANP and the MQM, there is a sort of uneasy working alliance emerging between the two of them. And I can see that this election won't change the MQM's hold on Karachi. The ANP's numbers may decline a bit, but I don't see a major change in the power dynamics of Karachi in this election.
And is there going to be a backlash against the Taliban? If they kill enough people who just merely want democracy, will that work against them? Or is that a question for the long future, not for this campaign?
Well, they aren't very popular anyway. Nobody likes them, so
But we just said it was an effective policy. Killing people is working for them.
Because if people don't vote they're too scared to go out to vote.
So this campaign is going to be influenced by killing candidates.
Absolutely. And
that's why we call it pre-poll rigging by Taliban.
Say it again?
Pre-poll rigging.
Pre-poll rigging. Well, it's killing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Umber, do you think that the question of the violence is going to change the number of seats? Is it going to mean religious parties getting in who otherwise would not? Is it going to mean secular people not getting in who otherwise would?
I don't know. I mean, there's this confusion in Pakistan. Secular has become an insult, you know. So
it's a
it
pejorative term,
you know. Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's going to change the numbers, but it has affected campaigning, definitely. And the other thing is that this election, the Jamaat-e-Islami is taking part in, so we shall see how that...
Just from, I will come to you, but there's a gentleman here who hasn't asked one, so and a lady here, so 1, 2, and then we'll come back to you, so yes.
Hello, I wanted to ask about some of the violence on the part of the secular parties, right? The MQM have been mixed up in all kinds of stuff. I just wondered whether you had a view on whether that would have any impact to hear about the Taliban violence, but they've not got a monopoly on it.
Are they all at it?
Excuse me?
Are they all at it? Are the secular parties beating people up? What do they do?
Yeah, they are against it, but it's too late for them to unite. They should have done it when they were in government.
No, but are they engaged in violence is his question. Are they?
The secular parties, I mean, they are accused of being and attacking each other.
No, I think the MQM certainly got a very bloody track record in Karachi. For years, they have been using violence to assert their grip on the city. Right. So let's not kid about that.
But it hasn't ever come up to the level of the Taliban.
No, it's not. They haven't used suicide bombers. They've been sniping at them. They've been shooting their enemies, political enemies.
It's pretty grim, you know, when you listen to it. It's not like an optimistic picture for those of us who are happy to getting the message from you. But it seems like a verging on a failed state. No, but verging, it seems like. If you go around shooting people at elections...
We are passing through a critical period and we'll come out of it. People are resilient, they are fighting these terrorists, and everywhere we have lost about 50,000 civilians and armed forces men. And we have invested $67 billion in this war against terrorism, and we are still doing it, and we are fighting it out. And we don't give it up like that. We have to protect our country.
No comment?
I'm quite pessimistic as well. But as a Pakistani, I mean, I have no option but to hope that we will pull through this. But it is a very, very gloomy picture, sure.
Are you glad you're not living there?
Well, I spend a lot of time there.
But living there, would you?
No, but listen, I would live there.
My whole family is living there.
Yeah,
my whole family
so is mine. I mean,
why isn't poverty?
You have to use it right there.
Why isn't poverty more of an issue?
180 million people are living in it.
I understand. I'm just saying it's pretty grim, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Why isn't poverty more of an issue? I mean, it's terrifying when you talk about this violence. What is it doing for people's livelihoods and so on?
Yes.
I mean, how are
security, they call it.
Yes. How are people managing to survive in spite of all this?
I mean, people are, of course, resilient. The ordinary Pakistanis, they are resilient and they have showed. The problem is with the political and military leadership. They have failed them all these years. Poverty is, of course, an issue. If you look at the manifestos of every political party, they emphasize on it. The problem is they have no solution to it, or they don't have a plan for it. Okay. Because the plan and the thinking has been hijacked by the other issues, non-relevant issues.
Right, and moving along to you, would you...
My memory goes back to the foundation of Pakistan, to the independence movement, which my family fully supported, but I am very sad. My basic feeling is that I'm very sad about the whole history since that time. First of all, the partition itself, when the three great leaders who'd worked together to achieve independence, and then they split up. I won't say anything about who was primarily responsible for it, but the whole question of the fact that we are having this situation today, as I say, just makes me very, very sad in general that why my friend here mentioned poverty. What about the issues with the exploitation of the workers, this collapse of the factory which has just happened, and the fire?
That was in Bangladesh, but obviously Bangladesh was the eastern part of Pakistan.
Sorry, yeah.
No, but it
yeah,
was the eastern
yeah,
part of
quite
Pakistan
right.
at partition. Yeah, absolutely.
But there have been incidents in Pakistan as well.
Yes.
So a question, not so much for you perhaps, but for all the people of Pakistan origin in the audience.
Well, stand up and have a look. Go on, stand up. Go on.
What can the diaspora do to influence the policies of this country, which have a reflection on it, and what they can do to influence what's going on back in their country of origin?
Well, people may want to applaud your question. I heard there were some people trying to clap. Yeah, so it's all very well a bunch of people sitting over here worried, but what could people do? Would anyone in the audience like to answer? I mean, I feel there must be some heartfelt answers here. The diaspora, is anyone like to come out as a member of the diaspora? You can vote? Okay, bear with me. Well, you give a microphone and let's hear some answers around the room.
Well, I think this time around we can vote, or at least that's one good result of the activist Supreme Court, that they're forcing the embassies abroad and the high commissions to allow voting for the overseas, and I'm expecting to cast a ballot.
There's a disagreement on the panel. Let's just hear it.
There's some confusion. It's not happening.
I think they're forcing it through, actually.
No, they're not. They had asked for input.
Rats.
If people are interested.
So one thing at a time.
Well, they certainly tried.
Right, but you can't vote then. The question: can he vote?
He can't.
You can't. Sorry, you can't. No. Right. So
If his vote is
that was worth
Pakistani,
£12.50.
go to Pakistan.
So this is
you came in here as a voter and you're leaving without the vote.
But it's a question then. What happened to the Supreme Court order that the Election Commission was supposed to implement with the help of the caretaker
one answer from the panel.
They conveyed to the Supreme Court that in such a short time they cannot make arrangements.
Okay, in a short time they can't.
And the Supreme Court has accepted that.
Right, so we're going to the room, the diaspora lady.
What the diaspora has been doing for the last 20 or 30 years has been shoring up Pakistan's economy through home remittances from all the people who work. They send huge amounts of money back.
Do you send money back?
Yes, absolutely.
And do you feel this is a good question from our friend here? It's a feeling your pain, I imagine, is what he's trying to say. What can you do? You must hear these reports from the panel.
I think without the diaspora's remittances, Pakistan economy would have been in a far worse position than it is now.
Well, they're certainly not collecting any tax over there, are they? So
I think the question of tax should also be set against the fact that Pakistan is among the highest, Pakistan population is among the highest that gives to charity. Perhaps the reason they don't pay taxes is because they're not sure where those taxes are going to go.
Because of corruption.
Because of corruption. But they are among the highest charity-giving population in the world.
Yeah, no, can I just say, in terms of corruption, that's institutional reform is needed with all the tax structures. And I think, there has been some progress in that way in the past 5 years. And also, under the 18th Amendment, there was legislation which devolved a lot of taxation back to the provinces. So this is a new system which is evolving.
So I wonder if you'd like...
Can I add?
Please, and I'm just wondering if you want to talk about corruption...
In the last 5 years, we have doubled the collection of taxes. We have identified 3.1 million new taxpayers. They will be paying tax. And the most devastating effect for the impact, decision by the government recently was to authorize the Election Commission not to allow any previous member of parliament or member of provincial assembly to contest elections unless he has cleared his 7 billion rupees were deposited before their nominations were accepted.
Okay, other diaspora questions, and then we'll move along. Sir, you can comment again. If you are you a Pakistani family? Are you from?
I'm from Pakistan, but I think one of the key things that, in terms of what diaspora can do, it's very difficult. I feel that in Pakistan, as someone who's living outside, to do it, because the whole structure of Pakistan, and it links to the question of tax, is based on feudalism. And you mentioned that.
No, it's your turn to answer the diaspora question. Don't put it.
All right, but I'm just saying that I can't because I've tried to do it. So I've tried to, help out, but I feel at loss at how can I, as a Pakistani living outside, help Pakistan where I don't know where my money is going to go.
You feel helpless.
Be a good Pakistani here.
Yeah, but
be a good Pakistani here.
What would that do?
Yeah,
Okay,
be a good Pakistani.
Yeah, but
Set an
how is that
example.
helping
Set an example.
How is that helping Pakistan?
You have to use the microphone or they can't.
Yeah, but how is that helping Pakistan? Me being a
Pakistan's image abroad.
Yeah, but how is the image? So the question is that Pakistan.
Because ours is an image problem.
No, sorry, sir. The question was asked that Pakistan is facing poverty, and you mentioned that one of the reasons that Pakistan is poor is because.
No, I give you an example.
Sorry, can I please?
Well, get to the point.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is. So the question raised that how can you help Pakistan? And one of the reasons mentioned was that because it's a poor nation and it needs funding, but how, as a Pakistani, image will not help. Or how can I be sure that my money, if I do remit to Pakistan, it's going to go to the right channels?
I mean, you remit it to your families, and it helps in the economy. That's another thing. And what you can do is, you are diaspora sitting here to make a political platform, a social platform to improve your image, to improve image of your country.
For example, Boston killer, they're all the time on television, but nobody talks of Pakistanis being killed, our military people being killed in this war against terrorism. Nobody talks about it.
Right. So
everybody, thousands of them have got killed.
Here's a new question, and we're moving away from the diaspora, I suspect, by looking at our friend here. But maybe
Indeed. Well, really a broad question. A few minutes ago, the Commissioner referred to Pakistan entering a critical phase. Very often I've heard it's a very young nation. It will take time to mature. How long does the panel think it will take Pakistan to come through this very bleak, critical phase?
How long?
And what process is necessary?
How long it has taken, or it is not?
How long will it take?
No, I'm asking you. How long it has taken, or it will take, to resolve Irish problem?
One heck of a long time.
Yes, we are in for it.
But I think that we've heard that before said to us in the British Isles, and it's a fair thing. But just answer his question: how long will it take Pakistan? Forget us for a moment. You said we're obsessed with you. You're obsessed with us.
Yes.
We have made progress in Ireland. There is progress in Ireland.
When Irish Americans support Irish people here, when all over the world the terrorists, the Islamist terrorists support the terrorists in Pakistan, how long do you think it will take? It will take a long time.
Irfan, how long will it take this gentleman? Would you like to answer?
It will take a long time. I can't give you a time
Well,
frame.
maybe Irfan can. There are other people on the panel.
No, I think we need to at least make a start, which is, talking about terrorism here. So far, the fight against the terrorists has been very feeble, and we just haven't been able to get our act together in terms of passing laws. So many suspects are arrested, the judges let them off on bail, they go out and kill other people. So I'm just saying that until we set up a framework and understand across the spectrum of society that these people are our enemies. There's so much confusion. A lot of Pakistanis don't accept that they are our enemies. So until that happens, I don't think we can even make a start.
And we heard from Per about education feeding a new generation of half the country. So can I just propose we move to the final 10 minutes? Panel, I'll also ask you to do some closing thoughts of things you may not have said that didn't come out correctly. But let's just spend the final 5 or so minutes asking you about the significance, the possible outcome, and what it may mean. Irfan, would you like to start? You can predict an outcome or tell us the significance.
Well, one significance of this violence is that...
No, the election. I'm moving back.
From the election, that if these three parties, the secular parties who ran the country for 5 years, if they don't do well, they'll always blame the violence. They will not accept that they're being punished for their incompetence. So this has given them, in a sense, an escape route, really, from being blamed for doing badly in the election. Now, I do accept that this is a very uneven playing field, but they need to face the fact that they did very badly in the last 5 years.
So, in other words, it could turn the secular parties in the wrong direction if they do badly in this election?
Yeah, this will feed a sort of martyrdom complex.
What's your prediction? Would you like to give us one?
Well, as I said earlier, I think Nawaz Sharif will get the biggest number of seats, and he'll be in the best position to form a coalition government.
High Commissioner, do you agree with this? You can't talk about
I
the
don't agree with it.
Oh,
I
you can
don't
talk
agree
about
with
it.
at all. This is a typical intellectual perception. If you look at the record of Pakistan People's Party or the coalition partners' 5 years record, you will see what number of reforms it has brought in. It's Benazir's support scheme. It is a poverty alleviation scheme. 47 million people have been benefited by it. The others, like in Punjab, the British aid provided by under Sir Michael Baba, there was opened hundreds of schools in Punjab and other areas as well. Similarly, many other schemes are in hand. And like we, as a matter of fact, when we took over, we had a backlog of problems. When we took over, there was a flour shortage. There was no atta available. People were starving for food. Today, Pakistan is surplus in wheat production. It is exporting wheat. Today, Pakistan is surplus in sugar. Today, Pakistan is surplus in cotton. In agriculture sector, it's booming economy.
But what is this you predicting the outcome, or what? You know, do you think that means that that'll help the PPP?
That will definitely help PPP in the rural areas where the majority votes are.
So will Sharif's party, Nawaz Sharif party?
Sharif party is Sharif and Imran party is urban based. It will have good votes, but in South Punjab you will see that PPP and its coalition partners will have more votes.
And who appoints you, the presidency or the Prime Minister?
Prime Minister.
So are you coming back in a few weeks? Are you going
Well,
back?
I'm not going back.
You're staying here. You're going to run a party from here. Like everyone. Good grief. Now, over to you, Amber. Would you like to make a prediction or tell us the significance?
I wouldn't like to make a prediction because this is a very unpredictable election. And one of the reasons for this is that when they did the voter verification, about 37 million unverified votes were thrown out of the register, and about 36 million came back in with new voters. So it's very unclear what the picture is going to be and where the votes are going to be. So
and what's the significance of this jumble of things that we've heard?
Because we don't know what the picture is electorally, like where these votes are going or where they're centered or which way they'll be. And, you know, the past sort of margins people have been winning by.
If there's not a clear result, well, do we wonder if the military...
We think it'll be a coalition. I
But
mean,
there have been a number of opinion polls.
Polls are
Yeah,
very...
but the broad consensus is that PML and Nawaz Sharif will have the biggest number of votes.
Oh, and there'll be a coalition government. That's the expectation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's interesting election because this is one of the first elections in which there isn't a right-wing religious parties alliance fighting against, you know, say the People's Party specifically or Nawaz Sharif specifically.
And do we need to be optimistic that it's the first time one democratically elected administration has handed over to another democratic administration without a bunch of old uniforms in the middle? Is that 1% of optimism for this election?
I mean,
do we leave the room saying it's an awful situation, but it's the first time they've managed to do 2 democratic terms since they started the whole place? Can we go out of here saying that?
I mean, yeah, politically it's very important, it's very significant that they have, for the first time, a civilian government completed its term. They have done some progress on constitutional issues, but they have failed considerably on the power issues, on employment, corruption, these issues. And the elections are significant because of the regional situation to the Americans and the NATO withdrawal from Afghanistan. The security situation is very bad, economic situation is very bad. All these are related. And how do we predict the outcome of these elections is, there is a famous Pakistani cartoonist, Sabir Nazar, and he has painted like two cartoons, and he's referring to the Imran Khan's slogan, Naya Pakistan, a new Pakistan. So he depicts a Talib guy putting a pistol on Asfandyar Wali, who is a secular guy. But Asfandyar Wali seems to be standing up to him. And the Naya Pakistan, he predicts, will be that Imran Khan lying in the feet of the Taliban, which is this whole consensus on the religious issue, not standing up to the menace of terrorism in Pakistan. So it seems to be the outcome. Muslim League Nawaz, Imran Khan, and other religious parties, are having a field day, and they will be effective in mobilizing people, while the secular parties have been sidelined, and this will have an impact on their voters turnout, on their candidates being able to run on the party platforms. So I think it will be a hung parliament. That has been the efforts, and the civilian government has been sidelined all these 5 years through different means, especially the media. So the effort is to hung parliament, which cannot stand up to the basic thing, the security and foreign policy.
And then, would anyone like to add some significance comments? You've got your hand up. Yes, please do, and then we'll come to your closing comments.
When I look at Pakistan, it seems to be imploding like a slow-dying star. I mean, it's fighting on so many fronts. You have the insurgency in the tribal areas. You have the horrific situation in Balochistan with the levels of violence by all actors being extreme. You have sectarian violence. You have,
natural disaster,
increasing extremism. You have the economic crisis. You have the poverty crisis. Whoever the new government is, what must the new government do to pull Pakistan out of this abyss? And I would say, in relation to the High Commissioner's statement, that Pakistan is actually a failed state that seems to be refusing to fail.
Yeah, that's why it's called denialistan. Where you are in denial. This is a problem. And
how many people had heard it called denialistan before? 1, 2. How many of us did not know Pakistan was known as denialistan? So that's £12.50. So is that a fair characterization of your country, denialistan?
I mean, people are in denial, especially the leadership who are in charge, and they don't understand the gravity of the situation. As she said, Pakistan is imploding, and there is no clear strategy, and there has been no clear strategy, either economic, political, and I mean, as I said, people are still resilient. They will. But there are a lot of challenges, and it needs political leadership, which is not present. That's why it's hopeless.
Can I ask you, you and High Commissioner and UFN, to have your closing comments? I'll take that as your closing. But would you give us a rounding up thought of the evening, something that you've changed your mind about, something you've learnt from the audience, or another opinion, and that'll be your closing remarks?
Well, I just think, I mean, there's cause to be pessimistic, but there's also, cause to be optimistic. Because we have come a long way from, say, 10 years ago. And we've had a parliament that's completed its tenure, it's done a lot of legislation, a lot of, with the media being there, a lot of things that were not talked about before, like the army's role, the ISI's role, what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in, human rights violations in Balochistan. All of these things are at least, you have a conversation about them. They've come out, and I think that's, come forward. People are waiting with, there's a lot of foreboding. Everyone's just got their fingers crossed that we get to polling day and the election takes place, because Pakistan is so volatile. But I think, it is resilient.
And High Commissioner, would you say you've changed your mind? Have you heard anything new tonight?
Well, I've been hearing all these things since I don't know how many years.
No is the answer then.
And I feel whatever we have said should not affect you. You should not change your views. But the fact is, people of Pakistan, people in Pakistan who live in villages, who are poor, who are down to earth, they understand more politics than us. And they've always voted for the right party. They've always voted for manifestos, economically motivated manifestos. If you look at the history of elections in Pakistan, you will see all the media people, even present here, even the British press, they have been condemning the Bhutto throughout, that they are unpopular, they would never win elections, they have been surveys time and again, and every time the elections are come, people have seen that they have voted for them, or the progressive liberal parties. In 2004, when the elections were held, the mullahs, they were nowhere. In 2008, the mullah was nowhere, whereas in 2004 elections, they got 55 seats. Well, how did they come to get those 55 seats? Because General Musharraf manipulated those seats to blackmail the West, that if he's not there, mullahs will take over.
Okay.
So don't live in that perception. No mullah is going to take over Pakistan. People are resilient. People believe in Mr. Jinnah's Pakistan, and they will continue to pursue his course.
Irfan, do people of Pakistan love elections? They love democracy, and they fear all this dreadful violence. But is there a great love of it there?
They do.
Yeah, I think there's, despite all our years of martial law, there's always been a struggle for democracy, and which is why all military rulers have tried to find legitimacy and rig the election somehow to gain some degree of legitimacy. But this is a recurring theme in Pakistan's recent history.
Thank you very much. Well,
By the way, they didn't get legitimacy within home.
No.
They got it from the West.
Okay.
From the Americans, from the British, everybody.
So it's 8:29, so I'm afraid that means we have to bring things to a close. But I think we've all taken something away from what you've done. It's very, very much in your heart, and you've been marshalling your thoughts very well. It's very sad, but it's still people go out to vote despite all of this. I've learnt denialistan. I've learnt the power issue is a massive one. I didn't know there were 18-hour power cuts there. And the violence may not even put people off. It's very humbling to listen to you all. The High Commissioner, Wajid Shamsul Hasan, Pir Zubair Shah, Irfan Hussain nearest me, and Kheri, thank you. And to you, the best-looking audience in London tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.